definitely don't want to drink today. I woke up in a pretty dark place this morning, and then I went outside and to nature to like do some grounding and healing, and there was a dead deer in the water in front of me, and it was like darker, you know. But I know that alcohol isn't gonna brighten my day today. I know that it's a depressant. I know that I have a history of struggling with depression. I know that today, if I don't put alcohol in my system, I have a much better shot at feeling better, but also being of service to the people that I am of service to.
Welcome to the 1000 Days Sober podcast. My name is Lee Davey. I am not an alcoholic. I refuse to be anonymous. I am someone that doesn't drink alcohol, and I spend every waking moment of my life helping other people do the same, like right now. Woo! Okay, folks, I'm going to level with you. My wife, 1000 Days Sober coach, Liza Lim, nutritional expert, has started listening to my podcast, right? And she said it's all good, but the beginning bit bugs her, which is basically me talking. She said I sound too cocky. So in the spirit of taking feedback and listening to my gorgeous wife, I'm going to make this really short and sweet so I don't annoy her too much, all right? I am going to be talking to Ben Curtis today. But before I introduce him, please be aware that now is the best time. Now is the time. There is no time like the present to come and work with us at 1000 Days Sober. What have we got for you? Okay, so we have the 1000 Days Sober experience, right? Where you can come and work with us in our personal coaching and access to all of our online content for 6 months, okay? And then 1000 days of working with our entire breadth of 1000 Days Sober coaches, and to be as part of our support system. And of course, have access to all the educational material as well for 1000 days, right? So we've got that for you. We've also got a program designed to help you stop smoking for 3 months, to give it a go, to see how you feel. It's called Revitalize. So if you're interested in that, let us know. And we have a brand new program called Who Am I? A 15-week experience where you get personal coaching from a member of the 1000 Days Sober team. At the moment, that coach is me. And it is a personal self-discovery to find out who you are so you can step in and reclaim your power and create the most amazing life, okay? We're going to be looking at topics such as psychology, sex, relationships. We're going to be looking at our friendship groups. We're going to be looking at utopia, our work, gratitude, the whole 9 yards, right? If you're interested in any of those things, head over to www.1000dayssober.com and sign up for a Choose Yourself call, where you'll get on the phone with a member of the 1000 Days Sober team, and we'll see if we're a good fit to work together. All right, so on to our guest, Ben Curtis. Ben is an award-winning actor, musician, and life coach. Ben travels the world spreading healing through love and specializes in coaching creative and sensitive men to step into their power and their light. What did we talk about today? We talked about creativity, being an artist, and the fallacy that we need to drink alcohol in order for us to create our art. We talked about the wooden leg syndrome, how we think that we need drinking in order for us to have a social lubricant, in order for us to dance. We talked about reparenting. That was a big one. We talked about, what is reparenting? Why do we need it? And why is it important when it comes to rediscovering ourselves and making ourselves whole and healing? So without further ado, I'm going to shut the hell up and leave you in the capable hands of Ben Curtis. But if you want to download our show notes and get hold of this guy and work with him, then go to our website, www.1000dayssober.com, head to the podcast page, and there you'll find a specially tailored page all about Ben Curtis and the work that he does. And I highly encourage you to check that out. Okay? Take care of yourselves, folks. Goodbye. How's it going, Ben?
Fucking great now. Damn, man. I feel that was a beautiful intro.
I am feeling.
And I've
really
never heard someone say they refuse to be an alcoholic or not, or they're not an alcoholic and they refuse to be anonymous. So I really I like that you're honoring yourself. That's really powerful.
Yeah, and I'm not doing that to wow. I mean, in the beginning, it was kind of a little play on AA, right? Because I was getting a lot of people coming to me and they were like, well, I've come to you because AA is not for me. Mm-hmm. So there was a little bit about that in it right at the beginning. You're talking 10 years, kind of playing around with this thing. But then as I developed my philosophy, I realized some real home truths in our philosophy at 1000 Days Sober around that word alcoholic, which are controversial, and around the, the benefits of not being anonymous. So now I say it with pride.
I fucking love it. I met my wife at an AA sober dance. And one of the reasons I fell in love with her is as we started to talk more, I was like, this is really helping me. And my life is definitely in shambles because of alcohol and drugs. But like, I don't know if I'm necessarily an alcoholic. And, everyone says, oh, honey, everybody says that when they first came in, but you don't end up in Alcoholics Anonymous if you're not an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Sure you do. I mean, it's a great place that helps a lot of people. And my wife was like, I don't think I'm an alcoholic either. And I was like, cool, me too. Bonded over that. But she had like 5 years sober. And I was like, whatever it is, there was spiritual medicine there and people who were living her life, which is why I was attracted to her. She was vibrant and fun and like an amazing dancer, and like people were getting wild. And I was like, how do they do this sober? And that immediately attracted me. And my life has been, as if still a current actor, but someone who had a lot of fame at one point, there was people would ask me about that. And I couldn't stay anonymous about something that is changing my life for the better. And I heard other actors talk about, their recovery. And and that actually brought seeing actors and musicians and other life coaches in my AA meetings were the things that kept me going. I was like, oh, fuck, nice. Like someone like famous who's like out there killing it is just another humble human being. And I would hear them talk about it in interviews. And I realized that's really important for me to talk about, that I'm sober. I don't want to shy away from it. Yeah, I understand the traditions and like protecting AA as a whole. So, there's people who are like, I'm an AA, and then they're a fucking asshole or like not really sober. And it can ruin it for other people. But in the end, we all have agency today. We're all adults and we get to make our own choices and say who we are. It's a self-diagnosed disease and you don't have to be an alcoholic to get help.
I just had this vision of you in an AA meeting with Tom Hardy and Colin Farrell and Michael Jackson, just fucking just cutting his shit, yeah, I'm fucked up, man. How fucked up are you? Yeah, I'm really fucked up,
Well, I've talked to some people with a lot of success and they've said it's almost who are, a famous actor or someone of notoriety in the public. And they've said, it is fucking hard to be successful right now because I have more to lose and it's terrifying. So the more successful I get, the closer I stay to my tribe that helps keep me sober. And I thought, God, thank you for saying that. It's not like your life takes off and then you're healed necessarily, or everything's just perfect. Like you still have tools. It can still be a daily battle. Alcohol to me, even though it's ruined my life, still looks pretty sexy almost every day. So it's still something I really have to check in with myself about and decide, am I going to drink today or not? I don't know. I'm not a never again guy, which is also, important for some people for their well-being, but it's not my story.
That's really interesting because at the beginning we were like, what are we going to talk about today? Right. But there's a couple of things that have come up, right? So the never again guy, that's a thing. Okay. Right. How to dance sober is definitely a thing. Yeah. And also what happens when you get fame? So fame, let's use fame as a metaphor for just success, right? So like I have a fucking amazing wife, success. I have kids, success. I just got promoted in my work, success. I don't drink alcohol anymore, success, right? So there are a couple of things we can talk about. Let's touch upon the I'm not a never again guy, right? So normally when I come across people in 1000 Days Sober and they have, say, I'm thinking of a particular guy, right? He's probably listening to this now going, you fucking wanker. But I got a guy in mind, like he's gone like nearly a year without having a drink. And then all of a sudden he's going to meet up with mates. Success. Amazing success, right? Then he's going to meet up with mates and there's a part of him that's like, oh, fuck, right? Like, normally when I have fun times with these guys, like it's all around drinking, and you start to get a bit nostalgia. You start to think you're going to miss it a little bit. What are you going to be like with these people? And the crux is my night going to be as enjoyable as it could be if I don't drink, right? So then, whenever I hear that kind of talk at 1,000 Days Sober, I see a red flag. I'm like, okay, this person thinks there's value in alcohol. So if there's value in alcohol, there's going to be a continual battle about whether we should drink it or not. And I don't want that. I want to help people get rid of that, right? So then I enter
too. I've been in that battle.
Right. So then I enter that conversation. I'm like, this is because it's not it's not a forever thing. So for me, it's a forever thing. So I'm like, I'm never going to drink alcohol ever again. So because I've made that vow, and it's like my whole entire being is cemented in it, that I'm never, ever going to be, not say never, ever. Currently, I'm not ever triggered about alcohol. So when I get into this conversation with people about this, the defense that the addictive thinking creates normally is, yeah, well, I don't know about this forever thing, right? Okay. So in your experience, how can we balance the question of I'm never going to drink forever, and balance that with not living a complete life of lack, of desperately wanting to drink, but stopping yourself from drinking, if that makes sense?
Yeah. For me, I think it's really, really unique to the individual. But for me, I would say it's, I definitely don't want to drink today. Today, I know that I woke up in a pretty dark place this morning, and then I went outside and to nature to like do some grounding and healing. And there was a dead deer in the water in front of me, and it was like darker, I definitely, but I know that alcohol isn't going to brighten my day today. I know that it's a depressant. I know that I have a history of struggling with depression. I know that today, if I don't put alcohol in my system, I have a much better shot at feeling better, but also being of service to the people that I am of service to. And it's, and also I'm going to show up as a better husband and just a better human. I'm not putting something in my body that's poison and that is going to have a negative effect on me. Maybe not tonight, probably tomorrow, and definitely mentally for the next few weeks, months. I know what it's like to drink on a sober mind. I drank 4 months into being sober, and it was fun for the night. And then what came along with that is just immense shame, desperation, judgment, self-loathing, depression. So I just know for today, that's how I find balance is I have enough proof that I probably should never drink again. But saying I'm never going to, for me personally, and the way my brain works, actually kind of makes me want it more. Right. So for me to say, definitely not going to do it today, it's not going to help, that really helps me a lot. That's how I find balance personally. I envy people who are never going to do it again. I really wish I felt that way. I've worked to try to find that. I had sponsors in AA who I said, I don't think I'm an alcoholic. I still would like to drink one day. They said, okay, well, let's do the steps and see what happens from there. So it didn't work for me to say never again. It wasn't my truth. So I think honoring my truth is what also helps me stay sober. My wife has a similar experience, and actually she drinks now, and it hasn't gone great for her, but she keeps recovery close in her mind. She keeps a check on it. But she's not me. So for me, I know that's not going to help me. And I can see, the negative effects for her and how she struggles. I don't want to go through that. I don't want to wake up. I've never woken up the next day being like, damn, I wish I had drank last night. Even with my friends, I've been on tour with my bandmates, and I spent a lot of time at bars and sober, and watching the destruction even and of that was that was painful to watch too. But it also kept me sober. Remember, it helped me remember why I am, because seeing those guys the next day, I mean, I was up ready to go, feeling great. They weren't, so it's, I also had all the money that I started with in my wallet from the night before.
Yeah.
Really cool too,
That is a cool one. What you said there reminds me, the guy that I'm talking about is Paul, and what Paul said was by breaking down his sobriety goals into smaller chunks. So he didn't go to a day, but he went to like smaller milestones than forever, or like our particular milestone is at 1,000 days sober is 1,000 days. Let's go 1,000 days. Paul's milestones are smaller, and when I challenged him on that, like his notion made sense, like yours. This works for me, and it has worked for me, so I want to keep doing what works. So I imagine when you do something like the steps at AA, and your sponsor saying to you, now we're going to have this philosophy of one day at a time, and you try it and it works, you don't really want to get rid of it, right? That's another aspect of it, I imagine. Like I'm the same. Like my philosophy is, I'm all in, and I'm never going to drink again. So boom, like that works for me. So I'm not going to shake away from that. I guess the learning point for me out of this is not everybody is Lee Davey. And that is a learning point for me that I have to keep coming back to. It's like, you fucking kidding me? You don't think like me? Like,
my wife and I had that argument last night. She's, we were like really in it heavy. And it was like, she was like, well, I'm not fucking you. And I'm like, well, I'm not you. Well, she's fucking me, but she's like, I'm not you. And I was like, well, I'm not you either, And it was like, oh, she was like, maybe you're never going to understand me completely. Like, consider you're never going to get me. And I said, yeah, consider that I may never completely understand you, because we are different people. And can we just like be okay with that rather than trying to force our perspective, which is all that was happening. I mean, most arguments coming out of someone trying to be right. But I said, can we just like learn from each other? Like, what's your experience? And then is there space for me to share mine? Because I think that's how we learn from each other.
So I like that.
Awesome. I feel you, man. Thank you for reminding me that not everybody thinks like me either.
Yeah, and I'd like to draw attention before we underline what we were talking about, in terms of one day at a time versus I'm never, ever going to drink again. I think, the main point there is what works for you, but not everybody knows what works for them. Yeah. So find a guide that you feel an energetic connection with. And then, and then even when you find a dude or a lady who's your energetic vibe, that don't have to take everything that they say. Like, you just got to figure it out yourself. But I think the key here is just always be really mindful about what's going on and how you're thinking about your relationship with alcohol. So if you're waking up every morning and you're like, I'm not going to drink today, I'm not going to drink today, I'm not going to drink today. And you've got that kind of energy, like, I'm not going to drink today, I'm not going to drink today, as opposed to like, hey man, I'm not fucking drinking today, right? Yeah. There needs to be some dialogue with whether you've got a sponsor or whether you're with people. It's just like, hey, I'm feeling a little bit drawn to this nostalgia or these thoughts. So then we can help because then it might be like, oh yeah, I don't think this is working for me. So we need to change something. It's all about how you feel, right, Ben?
Yeah. I think a lot of it. I guess it's not always black and white for me about how I feel, because if I was always just going on my feelings, I could have drank. But I think what you really suggested is finding someone who you resonate with, who understands you, and you see what's something working in them that you like, and to ask them how they did it and if they could share with you. And also just speaking what you shared. What I heard you say is, you're just speaking your truth today. Like, hey, I'm kind of drawn to this, and talking to them about it, because ultimately it's those things we keep secret that I believe feed our addiction. So the more we can just voice those things that we're thinking about that draw us towards the dark, or those things that we know aren't good for us, that it actually gives an opportunity, a space for it to shift and move. And that is kind of what some people would call a higher power, like any power greater than ourselves. And that could just be another person who's like, yeah, man, I think about that every day. And you know why? Because I drink every day. So you're not alone. And do you want to do something about it? Or or not. If you want to not drink today, let's talk about it. I can support you in that. Call me, before you go out with these dudes, and call me after. Call me during. Do you need to go out with these dudes tonight? Like, one thing I really love to do is rather than going and meeting my friends in bars, and I made it clear so they don't invite me to bars anymore. I say, I want to be able to have a conversation with you. I want to be able to hear you, and I want you to not be fucked up the whole time we're talking. So could we have, like, my buddy who does like a big birthday blowout at a bar every year? What I do is I may pop by for 20 minutes or not, but I'll always take him out to lunch the next day, and then we can really talk. But even sometimes he's so hungover that we don't have a great lunch. And he's talking, and he's now starting to talk to me like, man, I wish I could not drink like you. I wish I could get a handle on this thing. And I said, listen, when you're ready, I'm here for you. And he's tried, but he hasn't been fully ready. So, we're on our own journey. We have to honor each other.
There's a couple of things that you said there that really resonated with me. And one of them was, we share a connection with somebody who's just about to have a big house party in San Diego, right? And I saw the post on Facebook inviting us all to go, right? And then my first impulse was, yeah, got to be there because I'm part of that tribe. First impulse, got to be there. Second impulse was, I can't do that because of the rules that we've created in this family to keep my in-laws safe, who we live with, are in their 70s around coronavirus, right? So I'm like, if I go to this party, there's no fucking way anyone's wearing any masks. Nobody's going to be at distance. I can't do that because I've signed up for something different. That was the second thing that came into my head. But the third thing that came into my head was, if I go, everyone's going to be fucked up. And I'm not going to enjoy myself. So why am I going? Now, I want to touch on that point because it's really important. A lot of people who I work with would listen to that and go, oh, see, that's why I don't stop drinking, because Lee has just penalized himself and he cannot enjoy that moment, right? Here is how I would enjoy that moment. I would go to San Diego. I would arrive on time, whenever that is, and I would have the best 2 hours of my life. And then as soon as I see people start to nosedive, I get the fuck out of Dodge. Unless I found somebody that I can communicate with on a deep level who is not drinking or using, right? Yeah. Sometimes I can connect with people who are using drugs, but not alcohol. Sorry, using drugs other than alcohol, because I think alcohol is a drug, and I can jive with them. Okay, I can speak to someone who's on weed, and I could be okay, right? But alcohol for me is a bit of a killer. I find it really. There are a few people in my life who I used to play poker with, who for some reason can just fucking drink and drink and drink, and they're still the same. But and that's okay with me. But yeah, for me, it's kind of like, you don't have to drink alcohol just because all of a sudden this thing isn't fun anymore. You need to analyze, why isn't this fun? And was it really fun to begin with if it's no fun anymore? What are your comments and views on that? Because I imagine as you were going around on tour, you were staring us in the face all the time, right?
Yeah. It's a really great question. Could you just ask that question one more time? Because I want to make sure I've got it clear around fun and.
It's more of a talking point than a question. I know there'll be people listening to this that will say it's a negative thing that I'm feeling like if I go to this party that I'm suffering because I've chosen not to drink. Whereas when I used to drink, I would be able to go to the party. And I don't want people listening to this to allow that to stop them from trying to become sober, because that's resistance talking. So I want a conversation with you, I guess, around how can we expel this myth that we can't enjoy ourselves when we stop drinking alcohol?
I think we have to live by example and just I think we have a responsibility to have a lot of fucking fun. And, it's a great question because it's something I still struggle with sometimes. Like I notice, alcohol is a social lubricant and can quote unquote loosen you up sometimes. So I would notice myself being kind of a tight ass person in the band sometimes, because also I felt like I'm the one that has to keep it together because no one else is, and no one else is like looking out for the logistics. They're just ready to party. So, I really find, but then when you look at it, you're saying, well, is the party actually fun in the first place? Or did you need, like, if you needed to drink to enjoy yourself, like, was it a good time? But I just think we've been so conditioned that some people don't know how to have fun without alcohol, that it is scary and weird and vulnerable at first. But what made it so sexy and fun to get sober to me are the people that were having fun and that are having fun and are living extraordinary lives without alcohol. So I just think it's living by example. Like I've been to sober dances where you think everyone is on drugs because they're just like so wild, but they're just like, they're still party people. They just aren't, messed up, and they get to like leave hydrated and feeling great and having great conversations. So I think, you have to find, like, what does fun mean to you? If fun is getting obliterated, you may have to let that go. And for me, there is a grieving of that joy of obliteration, right? But what I found on the other side of it was like so much freedom that I got to be sort of like a sneaky free agent, like going into this place and like, ooh, I can dabble with these people and I can dabble with these people. And they may not know that I'm sober. I may even have like something that looks like a cocktail. And I'm just like, yeah, and feeding off the energy, But if the energy isn't good, then it's only going to lead to more darkness. And when I was at those parties, like often I would leave later and later and later in a darker and darker place, having done something I wish I hadn't. So it's an opportunity to like go and have fun and then learn like, oh, there's a boundary. Like maybe I can actually leave when I want to, and I can still show up for my things tomorrow. So for me, it's really sexy and appealing and joyful to go have a great time and knowing that I'm taking care of myself simultaneously, and I can come out of it on the other side feeling great. So, I find things that I love to do that are wild. So if it's a party and there's a pool, you can guarantee I'm going to be the first one with my clothes off in the pool. Like I'm going to be that guy because that's what I love to do. Like, okay, depending on who's there, maybe not all my clothes, but most of them, maybe I'll jump in with my clothes and then I'm going to throw someone else in. And, those are the things I love. I love wild, spontaneous energy. And then I like having deep conversations with people, and I'll pull people aside and do that. So it's like all of those things. I don't know if there's one answer. I think it's just like going in with an intention. Like I'm going to have a good time. And when it stops being fun, you're allowed to leave, which is also something most people don't give themselves permission to do.
Not when they started drinking. It's similar to going out and having 20 cigarettes in your pocket. Like, or having food on your plate at dinner time. If you've been brought up that way, like the object is to just finish what's on the plate, or the object when you go out is just to keep drinking. Like it's only when you go around Europe and somebody orders a bottle of wine and leaves half of it, and you think, what the fuck? This guy's fucking crazy. He's just left half a bottle of wine. It's like very different in the UK. I just want to preface that with a story, actually. So I think it's really important when you go out, and get really curious about this and ask the question why. So I was at Burning Man and I went to this dance event in the daytime with my wife and a friend of hers, another female friend. And we got there and there was several people naked. There was several people dressed up in some kind of weird kind of sexual kind of gear. I'm saying weird, but weird to me and my kind of stereotypical kind of vanilla kind of outlook on that kind of stuff. And immediately I couldn't move. Like I was just like, wow, this is so inauthentic. Right. So then I look at my wife and look at friend, and they're fucking, they're moving. Right. So I'm like, what the fuck? And the woman who's DJing really helps. She said, everybody close your eyes and feel the music. So I close my eyes and I feel in the music, right? And I'm just moving and I'm fucking getting into it. And then she's like, open your eyes. I open my eyes and there's this old guy in like S&M gear in front of me, and he's fucking gyrating and I'm fucking gyrating with him. And so the why is that an issue for me? Obviously, there's an element of people pleasing. Obviously, there's an element of fixed mindset. Obviously, there's an element of ego. There's an element of getting my worth and value from external sources, right? So the why now enables me to go on a voyage of self-discovery to see what does that mean to me and my relationship with myself, and what does it mean to the relationship that I have with those around me? What does it mean to my wife if I'm that guy, right? Now, rewind 10 years and I go to Burning Man. Now I'm going to say, give me a lot of drugs and give me a lot of alcohol. And I'm going to turn up at that spot and I'm just going to be like a fucking wild man. And I'm not going to remember it. But I'm not asking the question as to why I need to take these substances in order for me. Do you know what I mean? So I would much rather that we ask the question and then afterwards we said to ourselves, well, now I know the answers. I think I'm going to get fucked up. If that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Right? If that's what you want to do. But I realized in that moment, Bennett, I love dancing. It's just, I have a bit of an issue when it comes to just letting loose, just that little bit that stops me. I don't need to fucking drink to get over that little bit. I need to learn how to develop a growth mindset. I need to learn how to develop to love myself. You can't do that when you're fucking drinking because you're not asking those questions.
Yes, God, you said it. Yeah, that was so well said. That's beautifully articulated. You just nailed it home for me because I go to a weekly, or I was going to a weekly daytime dance event where I felt so connected with people. And every week I had that resistance, but every week I went because I knew that once I pushed through, I was going to have the time of my life. Like every time my wife is like, let's go. And I'm like, oh, not that hippie shit again. Like, these people are way too hippie. And she was like, fuck you. You're always the first one with your shirt off, like gyrating on the floor. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Like I almost forget every time how much fun I have. And it's just that initial thing. But like you said, you can't grow it through alcohol, through numbing out. You can only grow through feeling those feelings and being willing to come up against them. Like courage is not without fear, right? It's just embracing that fear and taking action anyway. So it is growing courage. You know, it's teaching your body and your nervous system that you're going to live. And you may even have an incredible experience. And the conversations I've been able to have and connections I've been able to keep and remember and grow because of not being intoxicated have just been exceptional. And all my relationships that were built on alcohol or drugs have fallen to the wayside. And I'm started to see what really matters. And I have relationships with friends who still are heavy drinkers or users, but it's because they're true friends no matter what. It's not because we bond over alcohol or drugs anymore. You know, they're still there for me and they respect my journey.
I have a few who drink heavily. I just don't, if I go out with them, I go to the cinema or I meet up in a coffee shop or dinner where they might have a few beers or something, but it's, and what I find is my friends, the ones who have stuck around, there's a mutual respect. So they know they don't want that mirror shoved in their face. They don't want to be getting wankered. So this is why they don't call you when they're going out to get smashed with all their buddies. It's kind of like, yeah, I don't want to leave there, like fucking showing me that I don't need this shit. So and I'm cool with that. You know, I remember one friend of mine, Akers, he just said to me when I gave up drinking, and he was like, fucking well done. Like, I'm really proud of you. Wish I had the balls to do it. But I'm telling you now, I feel really uncomfortable being around you. And I'm like, I wasn't experienced enough to realize it at the time that like, okay, well, that's your shit. Like, that's not my shit. I didn't say anything. I was just like, oh, wow. And it never affected me or anything. But I can see how it does affect people. You know, that need to people please and to the fear of being lonely. And for me, the fear of being lonely, whenever I'm lonely, and I get lonely a lot, right? Really, when I look at it, I'm just like, Lee, you're such a lazy bastard. There's 7.8 billion people out there. I'm in Los Angeles. There's so many like real top quality people I've been interacting with that live like within an hour's drive. Stop being so fucking lazy and go out and meet them and have some fun instead of being lonely, right? Like it's a lot of it for me. It's just like fucking, it's finding that courage to like break through that uncomfortableness of yeah, we don't have a school playground anymore. So I'm not forced to make friends. I literally have to go out and make them. And I don't have to do that because I got my wife and I got my kid and I got my computer. And so I don't have to move anywhere. Right. Well, then suck it up. You're choosing to isolate yourself, right? There's no way we have to be lonely in this world.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for saying that you feel lonely a lot.
All the time.
I do too. Yeah, I do too. And that's what I realized my journey was. Like I've used, whether it's drugs or people or sex or food to not, to try to avoid feeling lonely my whole life. And it's only inside of my relationship with my wife that I started to see how much I continually depended on her, and even taken her saying like, I can't give you the love you need. You have got to find that yourself. And that's why I thank her every day. It's she drinks, but it doesn't affect our relationship because she shows up for me in that way. She mirrors me, and she said, I don't want a drunk husband, and I said, thank you, and if she drinks too much, she'll, honor it and create something newly with me. She owns it. And so I've realized too, my journey was just through self-healing and reparenting myself and dealing with that loneliness, because the alcohol and the drugs just sent me way further into that loneliness. And I made some great friends at the time, but like great, I'm giving it these quotations because what I found out is they were way lonelier than I am. And they were like bottom feeders, and they were feeding on me. And the love I had, because I gave so much love outward, but I didn't know how to give it to myself. And that's been my journey. And through honoring that and through allowing myself to be lonely and feel those feelings is how I've been able to help so many sensitive men during this time, or any men that are like just feel stuck and afraid and alone, just to know that you're not alone. And some of the loneliest I've ever felt was in the middle of New York City,
surrounded by people.
Yeah. And it was just because I was afraid to put myself out there. And I was just feeling my feelings for the first time. I actually needed to feel lonely. And that was really important. And need to know the connection. But it's now a barometer for I need to give myself some more love. I need to parent myself a little bit more. Because if I'm seeking it from outside, yes, it's very important to have human connection with another. But it has to start with ourselves first. And that's ultimately why I quit drinking and doing drugs, is because I was on the way to becoming a coach and a life coach. And I was, dealing with life and looking at the training of personal growth and development. And we were having a conversation in this training about integrity. And the one place I was most out of integrity with was how I treated my body. Like a dumpster. Whenever I had feelings, I was pouring alcohol on it. I was pouring drugs on it. I was not in integrity with my body and what mattered to me. And the second those things stopped, and it was also my identity as a struggling artist, as a musician, as an actor. I didn't know how the hell to make music without drugs or alcohol. I didn't know I knew, luckily I didn't use most of the time when I would audition or perform, because I knew that they really messed up my performance. But I didn't know that as a musician. And it took a year of being sober before I saw how incredible how much bigger the sky, the limits were. My bandmates started thanking me, and people were like, you've never sounded better. There's opportunities. And music exploded out of me, but I had to grieve that first. I didn't play for a year because I was afraid, and I felt alone and sad, and I had to grieve. I had to let it go so that it could come birth from a new positive place. And now I can go anywhere and do anything because I'm sober. I get to go on the road. I get to travel the world. I get to be a coach for other men. I get to be an actor. I get to just honor my heart, because I have the resilience to take care of myself.
Do you mind if I...
Like attracts like. So I attract more light beings now, less darker people that are trying to get fucked up all the time.
Like me and you.
Yeah, it's great. I'm so happy to be on this.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this.
The
moment I saw you pop up, I was thrilled. When I saw 1,000 Days Sober, this is my guy. I can't wait to talk to them.
I love it. what you said there, could I just labor on it a little bit? Because I think it's a good teaching point for people listening. So, for you regular listeners, you'll know that I believe there are a number of reasons why we drink alcohol. One of them is going to be, trauma related. So we've just been talking about loneliness. Ben talked about reparenting. We'll touch upon that in a minute. So there'll be some kind of trauma lineage there that we need to kind of figure out. But the biggest one by far is what I call the invisible, violent, and dominant belief system. This invisible belief system that nobody knows exists, that programs us from birth to drink alcohol and ostracizes us if we don't drink it. And the way that the belief system works is very complicated. We unpick it in the 1000 Days Sober Experience. But one element of it is storytelling, is the rules of so-called rules of life that we never really push and we never prod. We just accept them as being rules. And one of those rules, if you're an artist or a musician, is I cannot create art sober. It's a rule. It is a rule that has been passed down from the Beatles, from the Rolling Stones, Damon Albarn saying, I created my best work when I was on heroin, and on and on and on and on and on, until you just know in your DNA that it is impossible for you to create unless you're high. So then what that does is it kicks in resistance as an artist, and resistance says there's no way that you can stop drinking alcohol, because if you do, you'll be a worthless piece of shit. You won't be able to sell anything, you won't be able to create anything, and you won't enjoy what you're doing, which enables you to keep drinking, which is why this belief system is really important. What I love is like when you come on here, Julian, who's the lead singer of the Machine Breakers, who was on here recently, the people who break through that and go, holy shit, I created some fucking epic shit when I was high, but I created some even more epic shit now I'm sober. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I'll say this and I'll pass it over to Ben. You have no fucking idea what you're capable of or how many gears you've got to go up until you stop. And then you're like, fuck, I never realized that I created this wonderful life and I was stuck in first gear. Where can we go now, right? Over to you.
Yes. Fucking amen. I just, yes, you said it. I mean, that nails it on the head. I just thought I couldn't create. I needed to be like, it's how I tapped into that animal at night, like in music, and that like darkness to call from, and that energy. But what happens is, for me, when I got sober, and it's similar to like, as an actor, when I got a big role, I was the face of Dell Computers, and I was a 20-year-old auditioning for a 13 to 17-year-old kid they were looking for. But I was able to play that 13 to 17-year-old so much better because I'd already lived through that, and I had the objective perspective where I could call on any age at any moment and shift into any gear. So as an artist, what happened when I put down the alcohol is that I saw that I could still choose that darkness, and that wild animal and that beast was still there waiting for me, but I could also choose anything else. And so the amount of music and the colors that have come out of me, like I've written some really intense, heavy stuff, but it's like, it's transformative now, because it's not someone who's just coming from a low vibration of, stuck in that first gear, like you said. It really like, it reaches people, and it's filled with more light and calls, and I can work on like, the calling in abundance and energy, and also like I'm so on top of my game as a business person, which is a huge part of being an artist today. You've got to be able to sell yourself and market and get out there, and then also what I saw is that it was all about me. And when I was on stage, even as when I wanted to be a coach, it's because I wanted to have some fame or notoriety or be a famous public speaker. But when I started coming from it as like, I'm going on stage, or I'm going into this meeting, or I'm going into this audition, or I'm going to create this piece of art out of service to the world. And when I started thinking of being of service to another, it took so much weight off my shoulders, because it wasn't about people judging me for my art anymore, or my self-expression, or my voice. It was like, hey, does this serve you? Do you get something from this? Does it light you up? Great. No, it doesn't. Great. I'm not your guy. Like, this isn't your music. I'm not your coach, like, go find the person who is, because like, this is what I'm putting out, like, take it or leave it. And so I became, and that's even sexier. You suddenly have a boundary and you're confident. And, I couldn't see any of that, like you said. So I love the metaphor of like, you have no idea how many more gears you have to shift into, but hey, that low gear is always available. If you want to go there, it's still there, but it doesn't have to be.
Well, you can see the gears when you're sober. Like, you can see them. Like, oh, I have choices. Whereas, like, when you're drinking, you are in the matrix. Like, you're in the matrix, and you think life is great. Like, you don't do anything. So, like, I had a session with a guy this morning.
Possibility.
No, yeah. I had a session with a guy this morning, and I came off it like 90 minutes, and my wife said to me, "How'd it go?" And I said, I talked too much. I overwhelmed him. And I didn't ask him enough powerful questions. I'm able to do that because I'm able to be more. I'm able to look at my life more thoroughly, and I'm able to ask myself questions about how I performed. I'm able to love myself. I'm able to, like, in that instance, I'm not beating myself up. I'm going, right, I'm gonna get, and I did. I went on to Marco Polo. I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to introduce a feedback sheet, because this is how I feel about how I showed up. And I want you to know that's how I'm feeling. And let me know if any of that speaks to you, I've never been able to do that when I was drinking, because I would just been like, how'd it go? Fucking killed it. Fucker. It's on there for 90 minutes. Whoa. Yeah. I fucking told him everything I knew. Woo. It's like the metric of success is like me imparting my knowledge and wisdom on the guy. Whereas now the metric of success is like, did I really help this person?
Yeah.
Right. Actually, and don't get me wrong.
That's the other guy. How was it for him?
How was it for you? I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, and then this is what I think is really important. Like 10 years down the line, like I stopped drinking 10 years ago. 10 years down the line, you realize, holy moly, I'm going to be a work in progress. Like, when I'm dying, I'm still going to be like fucking up. Like, on my deathbed, I probably will have the wrong people around my bed. Like, I'll fucking miss someone out. And I'll feel bad. I'll be like, motherfucker, like, why didn't I invite him? But you can meet that with much more like empathy and compassion. And let's talk about reparenting. You mentioned it earlier on. For people who are listening, what is reparenting? Why do you need it? How did you use it yourself? Do you use it when you're helping other people? This
is great. And do you mind if I go back to say one more thing about?
Yeah, sure. Do what you want.
I was actually sharing with a client today who's really holding on to suffering. And this goes into reparenting as well. So he had a very abusive childhood, a very abusive father who taught him he was never enough. It was never going to be enough, like ultimate perfection as well, and very verbally and physically abusive, and still is to this day. So we were talking about healthy boundaries, and he was saying, I've just been programmed to suffer, and I've been carrying this around. And I just, through our work together, he saw for the first time that maybe he doesn't have to suffer anymore, and that he didn't even realize that was an option until he talked to another, until he was in conversation with me, someone who had been through that and was no longer living that anymore. So in honor of September 11th, I am a survivor of September 11th. I used to say I'm a victim of that. And I lived in ground zero. I was there when it happened.
Holy shit.
And I saw a lot of death and destruction, and I lived through it. I had a lot of trauma and PTSD from it, undiagnosed, because I was pouring drugs and alcohol on me. So I didn't know what was wrong with me until I put them down and saw that I was medicating with that. And was getting worse. So I hadn't opened my mail in 3 months. My father had to fly from Tennessee up to New York to like help me open my mail and take me to a therapist. I could not help myself. All I could do is order more drugs or alcohol or whatever. But point being, I just, honor that because I was carrying suffering around as a badge of honor. People, you would start this podcast, you'd be like, tell me your story. And I'd be like, well, first off, I'm a victim of 9/11, blah, 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 blah. I would kick off wearing this like scarlet letters of pride of honor. And till I saw one day, oh my God, this was actually right before I got sober, but one of with working with a coach the same coach that brought the integrity conversation to me said, how long do you want to stay a victim? Like, is this serving you? Because I've heard you mention it a couple of times and it's kind of weird. And I said, God, you're right. Holy shit. It just like hit me like, he's like, do you want to put that 3,000 pound weight down? Because it looks kind of heavy, I mean, just a thought. And it's like, oh my God, I couldn't see it. Yes. And we just did a little exercise. He was like dropping a pen, like, this is your suffering. I'll look at it, drop it. Did you let it go yet? No. And we did that like over and over until suddenly it was like I had dropped it. I somehow identified it, and it was just someone giving me permission to let it go. And on that, so I was sharing that story with this client today. Like, you can hold on to this, but consider that you don't have to. And he's like, well, how the fuck do I do that? I'm like, well, we're going to talk about it. There's tools. Like, there's reparenting. So if you didn't have the father that you needed and your mother was an enabler, which if you grew up in an alcoholic home or you're an alcoholic, chances are someone else in your family is. And I didn't grow up in an alcoholic home, but I grew up around addicts who were people pleasers, codependents, overeaters, anger seekers. There's an opportunity to parent yourself as an adult. So what does that mean? You asked that question. What is reparenting? Well, if you had a healthy father, what might they say today? If you had a healthy, sane mother, what might they encourage you to do? My mother, as much as she struggled, has encouraged me to, lean into my emotions, to feel my feelings, to ask for help. That's one thing my parents did well. They were in a lot of therapy. But talking about my feelings didn't always work. And so I was even working with a coach and a healer that does some inner child work recently. And she said, you are really the effect of your emotions. And you had a confused father who, my dad is gay, but he had not owned that until I was about 15 years old. And you had a mother that was too soft in a way. She said, you need to go out and fucking like cut some wood and punch a punching bag, like get into that masculine energy in a positive way. Like what a father might take his son to do. Like, we're going to go out and do some manly things this weekend.
Oh, climb a tree.
Yeah. But I needed that.
Yeah.
I really did. And so for me, parenting myself today is, what would a strong, stable father tell me? And that's the voice that I try to give myself. Now, my father is good and strong and stable now, but he was not that when I was a child. And I don't get the same from him now even. But my father's not always available, and he's older and in a different spiritual place. So it to me is as simple as like, and I said it, what would a healthy father say to me? And like you said too, Lee, at the beginning, finding someone who you resonate with. So for me, it is very important to have, because I identify more towards the heterosexual side of sexual orientation, but to have, and straight men scared me because of like them. I don't know why, but I've found that I need to have some like straight men in my life that are powerful and yet sensitive, but also like really resilient and not super emotional. And So basically some mentors that exhibit like that behavior that I need to have balance in myself.
It's really interesting that you said that straight men scared you, because when I was in Burning Man, I was in this, the Mankind Project? The Man something project. And we were all sitting around a circle, just all men. Although one woman came in and said, does anyone mind if I sit down? And this one guy was like, yeah, get the fuck out of here. This is all men. But he got overruled because everyone was like, yeah, sit down, what the fuck, right? And I realized in that discussion that I'm terrified of being intimate with men. You know, like it was like it hit me in the moment. I've never thought about it until you just mentioned it. You know, like I'll always gravitate towards the women.
Me too. I was the same way.
Yeah. I just want to honor you for your vulnerability there, to own that you were carrying around the story of 9/11 as a badge of honor is like incredibly vulnerable. So thank you for that. And I think that in that lies the key to all of our addiction issues, is if we can be guided towards our shame, and we can speak our shame, which takes vulnerability and courage. There is no shame. And then it is a question of, and then the pen does drop. And but I'll end by saying this to everybody, don't do this alone. You get to a point where you get more comfortable and confident. Like you get to a point where you be like, yeah, I'm 45 years of age. I can reparent myself. And that might be true, but why do it alone? Why not like do it with a Ben? Why not like do it with a Lee? Why not pick up a book? Why not do a training course? Why not listen to more podcasts? Why not figure this out with people who are more steeped and experienced in these arts to enable you to kind of like, it's almost like you have all the fireworks within yourself and you have this wick, but you just need someone every now and then to light the fucker. Right? And once they light it, the fireworks are within you. They're like, Ben can light my wick. Ben can light my wick. I don't know where this is going. Ben can light my wick. But my big fucking rocket is not Ben's, it's my big rocket. Right? Yeah. And I think, that didn't end very well, did it?
I think it's fucking great. Go fucking, let's go light some wicks.
Let's go light some fucking Catherine wheels. Ben, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. I've really appreciated it. I'll make sure that everybody knows how to find you, to work with you. If you're listening to this, folks, go to www.1000dayssober.com. There'll be a podcast page. Ben will have his own, and you'll have his beautiful face on there and all the links to his work and how to join him, work with him as a life coach, listen to his music, watch him in his Dell adverts, and all that kind of stuff.
That was 20 years ago, but yeah.
You're still young enough to do it now.
Thank you. You can still watch them though. Yeah.
I'm going to do it right away. I'm going to do it right away.
I bet you will. I'm going to kick out. We'll see how much of a stoner I was.
No, it's been a real pleasure. Any last words to the folks?
Lee, I want to say just thank you. Thank you for being of service and all you do for the people out there. If you're listening and you think you might have a problem, this feels like some kind of, there's something here. You hear the universe calling, pick up the fucking phone. Answer it.
Yeah.
That's what I want to say. Like if this is resonating, there may be truth here for you, and consider that you may be in the right place. And if you're constantly seeking, it's okay to stop if you feel like this resonates. You don't need to keep seeking further. Like if you found it, like come back here, reach out to Lee, but mostly, and we, there's this saying in the recovery world too, but to thine own self be true. So fuck what your mates are doing. Like, what do you need? What part of you are you not honoring that is just screaming inside to be listened to? And honor that. Maybe don't drink today. See how it goes.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the difference between an award-winning actor and a musician ending the show, and a fucking idiot like me going on about fireworks. Okay, Ben, much love. Take care, everybody.
Absolutely.
Next time.